Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Diving deep into fascinating topics is what we do here, and today's topic is one that a lot of folks are curious about. We're talking Bitcoin and Ethereum, two of the biggest names in the crypto world, and judging by the research you sent over, you're looking to really get under the hood, right?
Absolutely. We're going to go way beyond the headlines and those buzzwords everyone throws around.
Awesome.
Okay.
So I guess first things first, why even compare these two? A lot of people think crypto is crypto, right?
That's where a lot of folks get tripped up. They might both use blockchain, but their goals are totally different. It'd be like saying a car and a rocket are the same because they both use engines.
Okay, so let's break that down. What are we talking about with these different goals?
Well, with Bitcoin, the idea is digital gold, right? Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist, making it scarce, just like gold. And the thinking is that scarcity drives value.
Scarcity equals value, got it. But where does Ethereum fit in? That's the one I hear about with all these crazy applications.
Yeah, exactly. Ethereum is all about building a platform. It's not just a currency, it's the foundation for a decentralized internet.
Decentralized. Okay, now you're using the tech jargon. Break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Think about it. Right now, companies like Google or Facebook, they control tons of data, right? Ethereum wants to change that. Imagine a world where apps are run by a network of computers spread across the globe, not by a single company.
That sounds pretty radical. But before we get lost in the future, we got to go back to the basics. We hear blockchain all the time, and it seems like the foundation for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Can you explain it like I'm five?
Imagine a giant digital ledger that's copied across thousands of computers all over the world. Every transaction is recorded on this ledger, and here's the kicker. Once a block of transactions is added to the chain, it's virtually impossible to change.
So it's like a public record of every transaction, but super secure because it's spread out like that.
You got it. But here's the thing. The way blockchain works for Bitcoin and Ethereum is different. Remember that car and rocket analogy?
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing where you're going with this. So what's the difference?
Bitcoin's blockchain is simple. It's like saying, Bob sent Sally 5 Bitcoins. Straightforward. But Ethereum, that's where things get interesting. It's not just about recording transactions, it's about running code, these things called smart contracts.
Smart contracts? I gotta admit, that sounds a little intimidating.
They're not as complicated as they sound. Think of them as agreements written in code. Like, let's say you want to bet on a game with a friend. You could write a smart contract that says, if Team A wins, the money automatically goes to me. If Team B wins, it goes to you.
Oh, so it's like automating trust. No need to worry about someone running off with the money.
Exactly. And because it's all on the blockchain, it's transparent. Everyone can see the terms of the agreement.
That's wild. But my research also mentioned this whole debate about crypto and energy use. What's the deal with that?
Right, that's a big one. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum originally used a system called proof of work. Imagine a ton of computers competing to solve math problems. Whoever solves it first gets to add the next block of transactions to the chain and gets rewarded with Bitcoin or Ethereum.
So like a giant energy-guzzling math competition.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's why Bitcoin has gotten a lot of flack for its environmental impact. However, Ethereum recently switched to something called proof of stake.
Proof of stake. Okay, I'm all ears. What's that all about?
Think of it this way. Instead of all those computers racing to solve problems in proof of stake, people who hold Ethereum basically put up some of their coins as collateral, and then they have a chance to be selected to add the next block.
It was more like a lottery system.
Exactly. And way more energy efficient.
So Ethereum went green, so to speak. What about Bitcoin? Any plans for them to ditch the energy-intensive system?
The Bitcoin community, they're pretty cautious about making big changes. For now, they're sticking with proof of work. But they're working on ways to make it more sustainable, like using renewable energy to power those mining operations.
Interesting. So we've got these two different blockchains with different approaches to energy use. But how do they actually work for, like, everyday transactions?
Well, with Bitcoin, you send Bitcoin directly to someone's Bitcoin address. It's kind of like sending an email, but with money.
Easy enough. But what about the speed and cost? I've heard Bitcoin can be slow and pricey.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides. The network can get congested, especially when a lot of people are sending transactions. That's when fees can go up.
Like surge pricing on a ride-sharing app.
Exactly. Now, with Ethereum, transactions can be faster than Bitcoin, but they have this thing called gas fees.
Gas fees. Okay, now I'm really lost.
Think of it like paying a toll to use the Ethereum highway. Every action you take on the network, whether it's sending Ethereum or using a smart contract, requires a small fee.
So it's like paying for the convenience of using the Ethereum network.
Exactly. But just like tolls can vary, those gas fees can fluctuate. Sometimes they're cheap, other times not so much.
Okay, that does sound frustrating. Are there any solutions in sight?
Oh, absolutely. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum are constantly being developed. For Bitcoin, they're working on something called the Lightning Network. It's like building express lanes on that highway so transactions can zip through faster and cheaper.
Makes sense. So it sounds like these are both evolving technologies, but are they just for techies or can regular people actually use them?
That's the exciting part. They both have real-world uses beyond just buying and selling crypto. Take Bitcoin, for instance. It's being used in countries with unstable currencies, like a way to protect your savings from inflation.
So like a digital safe haven.
Exactly. And it's also being used for international money transfers, which can be much cheaper and faster than traditional methods.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What about Ethereum? What kind of real-world stuff is happening there?
This is where it gets really wild. Remember those smart contracts we talked about? Well, they're being used to create this whole new financial system called DIFi, short for decentralized finance.
Okay, decentralized finance. Break that one down for me.
Imagine all the things you do with banks lending, borrowing, earning interest, but without the banks. That's what DeFi is aiming to do.
Wait, so no more banks. How does that even work?
It's all powered by code. You can lend and borrow money directly from other people through these DeFi platforms. There's no central authority controlling things.
So it's like peer-to-peer finance, but supercharged by blockchain and smart contracts. That's crazy. But what about those NFTs I keep hearing about? Where do they fit into all of this?
NFTs are another example of how Ethereum is changing the game. Think of them as digital deeds.
Deeds. So they're not just for, like, digital art and collectibles.
Nope. They can represent ownership of any unique digital asset. A piece of art, a virtual item in a game, even a ticket to a concert.
So it's like a way to prove you own something digital without anyone being able to fake it.
Exactly. And because it's all on the blockchain, it's transparent and secure.
Wow, you've really given me a lot to think about already.
Mm.
But before we dive into even more fascinating stuff like those crazy expensive pizzas you mentioned, I want to ask about something you said earlier, governance. Who's actually in control of all this? Like, who makes the decisions in Bitcoin and Ethereum?
That's a key difference between the two. Bitcoin, it's very decentralized. Decisions about changes to the code are made through this consensus process involving developers, miners, and the whole community. It's like a big, slow-moving ship, but very stable.
So it's resistant to sudden changes.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, Ethereum is a bit more agile. They've got a big developer community that's constantly working on improvements and upgrades. It's more like a speedboat, able to adapt and change direction quicker.
Okay, so different approaches to governance. Got it. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? We only scratched the surface. What other fascinating insights have you uncovered in your research?
Well, you brought up those pizzas, and that story perfectly highlights just how far Bitcoin has come. Back in 2010, a guy bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins.
Wait, he paid 10,000 Bitcoins for pizzas.
2 pizzas. Today, those Bitcoins would be worth, well, let's just say a lot more than a couple of pizzas.
Talk about an expensive dinner. But, it really shows how much Bitcoin's value has exploded since the early days.
It does. It really emphasizes how Bitcoin's role has evolved, becoming a store of value.
That's amazing. Okay, I am hooked. We're going to need way more time to unpack all of this. I can't wait to dive deeper in part 2 of this epic deep dive. All right, welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were talking about those pieces bought with 10,000 Bitcoins, which is just mind-blowing when you think about how much Bitcoin is worth today.
It really is. It's like a perfect example of how much things have changed since those early days,
Yeah, talk about a good return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to shift gears a bit and talk more about Ethereum. We touched on DeFi and NFTs, but I'm not going to lie, I still need a little help wrapping my head around them.
Totally. It can be a lot to take in, so let's unpack it a bit.
Perfect. So, like, real-world examples. What are people actually building with this stuff?
Okay, well, let's start with DeFi, decentralized finance. One of the big things is lending and borrowing. Imagine getting a loan without going through a bank. All the terms are coded right into a smart contract.
So it's like cutting out the middleman, the bank, entirely.
Exactly. Platforms like Aave and Compound are already doing this. It's peer-to-peer lending, but with the security and transparency of blockchain.
Okay, so the code is basically the enforcer. But how does that actually work? Like, what's to stop someone from just, not paying back the loan?
That's where collateral comes in. Borrowers usually have to put up some of their crypto as collateral. If they don't repay the loan, that collateral can be liquidated to cover the lender's losses.
Ah, so there's still some skin in the game. It's not just a free-for-all.
Right. And all of this is automated through smart contracts, which makes it much more efficient and transparent than traditional lending.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could disrupt things. Are there any other cool DeFi applications you've come across?
Tons. Another popular one is decentralized trading. Imagine trading crypto directly with other people without going through a centralized exchange. Platforms like Uniswap are making that happen.
So it's like a global peer-to-peer marketplace for crypto.
You got it. No more dealing with those hefty exchange fees or waiting for transactions to clear. And it's not just trading. There are platforms that let you earn interest on your crypto, kind of like a high-yield savings account. But instead of trusting a bank, your funds are locked into a smart contract.
Wow. So it's like taking all the traditional financial services and rebuilding them on the blockchain without all those intermediaries.
That's the idea. It's about giving people more control over their finances.
Okay, I'm sold on DeFi. But what about NFTs? They seem to be getting all the hype lately. Are they more than just like digital art?
NFTs are definitely having a moment, but they're much more than just JPEGs. Remember how we talked about them being like digital deeds?
Right.
Well, think about all the things a deed can represent. Ownership of a house, a car, anything unique and valuable. NFTs can do the same thing for digital assets.
Okay, but help me out here. What kind of digital assets are we talking about?
It could be anything digital that's unique and can't be copied, like a virtual item in a game, a ticket to a concert, a piece of music, even a digital representation of your identity.
A digital identity, like a passport, but for the metaverse.
Yeah, kind of. It's still early days, but that's one of the exciting possibilities. NFTs can create a secure and transparent way to verify ownership and authenticity in the digital world.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But all this DeFi and NFT stuff, is it really user-friendly? I mean, it sounds pretty complex.
That's one of the challenges right now. It can be intimidating for people who aren't familiar with crypto, but things are improving rapidly.
What kind of improvements are we talking about?
Well, there are user-friendly wallets now that make it easier to store and manage your crypto, and there are platforms that simplify the buying and selling process. It's becoming much more accessible.
So like, remember the early days of the internet? Everything was super clunky, but then it got easier and easier to use.
Exactly. That's what's happening with crypto now. It's becoming more mainstream and user-friendly.
Okay, I'm feeling more optimistic now. But let's be real. There's still a lot of skepticism around crypto. We've seen some pretty wild price swings, and there are always stories about scams and hacks. What do you say to people who are hesitant to jump in?
It's smart to be cautious. Crypto is still a relatively new and volatile market, and there are definitely risks. It's important to do your research, invest responsibly, and never put in more than you can afford to lose.
Solid advice. So how can people learn to navigate those risks and make smart decisions?
Don't just follow the hype. Learn about the technology, understand how blockchain works, and research different projects before investing. There are tons of resources available online, like educational websites, articles, and community forums where you can connect with other crypto enthusiasts.
It's all about being an informed investor.
Got it. But looking ahead, where do you see Bitcoin and Ethereum going in the next few years?
It's hard to predict the future, but I think we'll continue to see Bitcoin being adopted as a store of value, especially with all the concerns about inflation.
So, Bitcoin as digital gold is here to stay.
I think so. And I think we'll also see more and more people using it for everyday transactions as the technology improves and becomes more user-friendly. What about Ethereum? What's next for this platform that's trying to, like, reinvent the internet?
Ethereum is all about pushing the boundaries. They have a whole roadmap of upgrades planned, focused on things like scalability, security, and sustainability. They want to make the network faster, cheaper, and more energy efficient.
So they're not just sitting back and letting things happen. They're actively working to make it better.
Exactly. And one of the most exciting developments is sharding.
Sharding. Okay, another tech term. Break it down for me.
It's basically splitting the Ethereum blockchain into multiple smaller chains. Each shard can process transactions independently, which makes the whole network much faster and more efficient.
So like adding more lanes to a highway to handle more traffic.
Exactly. It's a game changer for scalability. And they're also working on improving security and making the network even more energy efficient. Remember that switch to proof of stake we talked about? That was a big step in the right direction.
So a faster, greener, more secure Ethereum. Sounds pretty impressive. But there's this other big question looming, right? Regulation. Governments are starting to take notice of crypto. How do you think that's going to play out?
Regulation is the big unknown. It could be a good thing, bringing more legitimacy and stability to the market,
Mhm.
but it could also stifle innovation if it's too heavy-handed.
It's like a balancing act, right?
Exactly. Governments need to find a way to regulate crypto without killing the innovation that makes it so exciting.
Well, that's going to be interesting to watch unfold. But let's end on a positive note. In all your research, what are some of the most exciting developments you've seen in the crypto world? What really gets you pumped about the future?
I'm really fascinated by DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations.
DAOs. Okay, another new one. What are those all about?
Imagine an organization that's run entirely by code with no central leadership. Decisions are made by the community through voting, and everything is transparent and recorded on the blockchain.
So it's like a company,
Hmm.
but completely democratic and transparent.
You could say that. We're seeing DAOs being used to fund projects, manage investments, even create social communities. It's a whole new way of organizing and collaborating.
Okay, color me intrigued. DAOs sound like something we should definitely explore further, but that's probably a conversation for another deep dive.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground today, from blockchain basics to the potential of DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs. I feel like I've learned so much, but I have a feeling you've got even more insights to share.
Oh, there's always more to explore. And in part 3, I want to dive into some of the bigger picture questions about Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe spark some thought-provoking discussions for our listeners.
Perfect. Sounds like we got a lot more to unpack. We'll be right back after a quick break.
And we're back for the final part of our crypto deep dive. We've talked about blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, even DAOs, you name it. Now I want to get into some of the bigger picture stuff, the kind of questions that keep you up at night.
I'm with you. It's those big questions that really make you think about the impact this technology could have.
Exactly. So I guess the first big question is Bitcoin or Ethereum, which one wins?
The age-old debate,
Yeah.
right? But honestly, I don't think it's about one being better. It's more like they each have their own strengths, their own purpose.
Okay, so it's not like a competition. They're not fighting for the same prize.
Not really. It's more like they're playing on different fields, Bitcoin, with its focus on scarcity and security, it's designed to be that digital gold we've been talking about. It's like the ultimate safe haven asset.
Yeah.
So it's about storing value, protecting your wealth. Got it. But what about Ethereum? Where does it fit into this picture?
Ethereum, it's all about building, about creating, right? It's a platform for decentralized applications for a new kind of internet.
So if Bitcoin is like digital gold, Ethereum is like the digital foundation for a whole new world.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, so they each have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a thought. What if they both succeed? What if Bitcoin becomes this globally accepted store of value and Ethereum powers all these amazing decentralized applications? What would that world look like?
Now that's a question worth pondering. Imagine a world where we have more control over our data, our finances, our identities, all thanks to decentralized technology. It's a world where power is more evenly distributed, where we're not so reliant on these big institutions.
That does sound pretty amazing, kind of utopian even. But
Yeah.
let's be real. Are we getting ahead of ourselves here? Are there challenges that could prevent this vision from becoming reality?
Of course, there are always challenges. I mean, we've talked about the need for clear regulations, and there are still technical hurdles to overcome, like scalability. And let's not forget the volatility, the ups and downs of the crypto market. But the potential is there. And that's what keeps so many people excited and working hard to make this vision a reality.
I get it. It's like any new frontier, there are risks and uncertainties. But the possibilities are just so tantalizing, it's hard not to get caught up in the excitement.
I know what you mean. It's an exciting space to be in, that's for sure.
So for all our listeners who are now fired up about crypto, what advice would you give them? Where should they start?
The best thing you can do is learn. Dive in, read everything you can, explore different projects, join those online communities, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this world.
Like anything else, right? The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Exactly. And remember, this is a constantly evolving space. What's true today might be different tomorrow, so stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop learning.
That's what the deep dive is all about. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but we also have to acknowledge the potential downsides, the risks, the concerns. What are some of the things we need to be mindful of as this technology continues to evolve?
That's a really important point. Like any powerful technology, crypto can be used for good or bad. There are concerns about illicit activities, money laundering, even funding terrorism. These are real issues that we need to address head on.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we use it, but making sure it's used responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility. Developers, policymakers, investors, users, we all have a role to play in shaping the future of crypto and ensuring it aligns with our values and our vision for a better world.
That's a powerful message to end on. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about the choices we make, about using this incredible innovation to create a future that benefits everyone.
Well said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this epic deep dive into the world of crypto. It's been an incredible journey. We've learned so much, explored so many fascinating ideas, and hopefully we've inspired you to continue exploring this amazing world. And remember, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.